I'm Megan Waldrop, host of the Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast, an extension of an online community created for partners to connect worldwide, find helpful resources, and share stories to feel less alone in this incredibly unique and adventurous way of life. The POCF podcast invites fishermen, family, friends, supporters, or those curious to know more about the commercial fishing community to join conversations as we learn from each other, laugh, sometimes cry, and relate with those who are the faces behind each catch. What do you say? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast episode. I'm Megan Waldrop, and today we're discussing the Women in Commercial Fishing panel I was honored to be on, hosted by Julie Kuchepatov of SAGE, Seafood Gender Equality, and also highlights from PME, the Pacific Marine Expo. But first, I want to share a testimonial that I received this morning that was just so kind and really hits the mark of why this community is here in the first place. It said, "Megan, thank you for your work. It matters very much and has made a difference for me. None of the women in my small village talk about what it's like for them and have the mindset of suck it up. When I found your articles and website, it made all the difference. I didn't feel so alone in my sometimes struggle to live this life well. I'm so very grateful. My fisherman thinks it's made a difference and he is grateful too. There is no life like this and you don't know until you know. It can be overwhelming, but you, your work, and all who follow you are a safe harbor for women like me. Hugs and gratitude." This is from a POCF Paula. Thank you so much for the kind words. And I mean, it's completely humbling. And the truest statement is that a community is only as great as the sum of its parts. So thank you, POCFs, for sharing your stories to make others feel less alone and get that sense of belongingness that we are all in it together and we can do this. And we've been doing this since the beginning of time. Since men and partners have been fishing, there have been partners of commercial fishermen backing this up. So yeah, it's really incredible. So thank you for those words. So I'm going to talk about that incredible panel and the fact that Julie dedicated her dockside chat to uplift our community is so beautiful, and I am grateful for that. And we're going to get to those takeaways in a bit. But as a partner of a commercial fisherman and someone who's leading this community, and as a writer and a writer for national fishermen, my mission for 2024 is to curate resources to better serve POCFs and their families. And I want to do that through our community and through my writing and podcast, of course. And so highlights from this year's Pacific Marine Expo included the mental health for commercial fishermen, strategies for addressing stress on the water. It was a panel. It was great. Project Gabe is another program out there that was started by a woman who lost her stepson to an accidental opioid overdose. And they talk about getting Narcan on fishing boats because, y'all, it is a discussion that needs to be talked about. Like, that is something that's out there. It's scary. But Project Gabe is something to look into. I'm going to link all these things in the show notes, by the way. But the panelists were really great. My takeaway was Tav Amu's personal experience with mental health. I met him at the PME last year. He runs the Sea Grant, Alaska Sea Grant, and he's part of the team that runs the Alaska Young Fishermen Summit, AYFS, excuse me, y'all, through Sea Grant. And it's a 3-day training networking event in Anchorage, Alaska from the 5th to the 7th of December. So I want to shout that out. If you're reading this or listening to this before that event. But what I loved about Tav's was that he was really open in expressing his mental health challenges that he's had on the boat with stress, fatigue. It can really obviously get to you. It's such a stressful job. And, some of the things that they say is to look for signs within yourself and signs within your crew, and things you can look out for are fatigue, lower patience, irritability. If you are less vocal, these are signs that you need to kind of take a break or maybe eat some food. Here's some other ways that you can remedy that. It's honestly a one-to-one chat with the captain or with other crew members. Like I said, food, a quick nap, humor, and knowing your limitations and saying, I have to take a break. That is going to be helpful in the long run for everybody's well-being, because we want our fishermen to be healthy. We want them to have clear mental health. And by the way, mental health is just as important as every other part of our body, if not the most important, because our minds control so much. Yes, as someone who's working on that every single day. So I'm continuing with the highlights. Anyway, the mental health, that was such a great panel. I'm so happy that PME was shining a light on that. Let's normalize that discussion always. Also, here's another takeaway. Sexual harassment and misconduct are required to be reported by law as of April 2023, which is freaking awesome, as it should be. The Coast Guard needs to be notified. They have a app. It's called CGIS Tips that you can download from the App Store. You can contact them through there. There's also, you can reach them online, or the number is 202-372-2100. You can reach them any day of the year, 24 hours a day. So boom. As that should be a law. No sexual harassment or misconduct. If that happens to you, there are people there to help you immediately. Okay, some other highlights. The dockside chats, of course. National Fisherman was so kind to allow for us to take over their booths for an hour. It was great. So they had dockside chats for every day. So there was like a Wednesday and a Thursday day. The one from, let's see, I believe this was Wednesday. Or no, this was a Thursday. Dwyer and Highliner Matt Alward discussed their money for fishing and selling direct and getting grants, all this stuff. And it was really interesting for people to learn about grant writing, how to connect with your audience, and the marketing to keep them coming back for more. Also, Trish Whetstone, who runs the British Columbia Young Fishermen's Network, or BC Young Fishermen's Network. I loved her roundtable discussion about graying of the fleet and how we can support young fishermen into the industry. And it was wonderful to have Paul Molyneux, who's a National Fisherman contributor that you've definitely read before and I've mentioned before, to hear his passion of the industry and his children that were in the industry, and he was a fisherman himself, go against somebody who, in their own way, did not feel they wanted their children to enter the industry, and to hear their reasonings was it was really a great discussion. And I love how Trish ended it with, if one doesn't support a young generation, who do you expect to buy your fishing business from you? Like how do you expect to pass along this incredible legacy? That was a mic drop moment. So, and then of course, the Women in Commercial Fishing Spotlight dockside chat that Julie Kuchepatov hosted. And it had such a great turnout. And first, I want to say that SAGE's mission, and I'm reading from their website, is envisioning an inclusive seafood industry that embraces gender equality and empowers women, leading to an abundant supply of environmentally and socially responsible seafood for future generations. That beautiful mouthful. She was so kind to highlight the contributions that partners give to the industry. We are unseen. I say unsung heroes. It's changing though, because there is so much support out there that I was so excited to hear that people knew of us, and we're happy to pass along our community to others who need it. It was just beautiful. So Julie, in this discussion, she highlighted the need for women to be included in leadership roles and decision-making processes. I'm getting ahead of myself because this is such juicy info. And it was really interesting. She also mentioned the lack of data collection on women's participation in fisheries and the consequences of not recognizing women's contributions. And yeah, I definitely understand that for sure. I'm going to side note that and say, one of the ways that we can recognize women's contributions, and as a partner of a commercial fisherman, I bring it back to the relationship, because that is the core of this, by the way. The way we can amplify women, number one, is for fishermen and POCFs to appreciate each other within the relationship, saying thank you, as simple as that. And that's part of the whole communication thing. I mean, honestly, at one point I told Chris that we might have sat down combo, and I said, every time you and I do one of our chores, like he takes out the trash or whatever I'm doing. When we lived on a sailboat, it was emptying the pee jug. That's a whole other discussion. But acts of service, things that we typically do as our chores in our household, is that I always want us to say thank you and acknowledge that, because that's going to go a really long way. And it does. I mean, whether you're doing the laundry and this is like your day-to-day or whatever, It's saying thank you means I see you and I love you. And that positive reinforcement goes a long way in building intimacy and strong partnerships. I will say that for sure. Yeah, so that was the big one for there. And Julie also discussed more ways to amplify women, including, scheduling meetings to accommodate family responsibilities, people who have families, and are they able to make meetings that are during pickup time? I actually changed a future Zoom meeting for private Zoom members. It's going to be at 12:30 p.m. Central Time on December 6th, and I changed it because I wanted to fit within that school pickup zone, and that was inspired by this conversation. It's interesting the things that you take away and can implement into your own life and business, And the other big takeaway for me was an audience question. A very sweet fisherman. He's been in the game for 30 years, okay? He was wondering, how can we encourage more female fishermen to come into the industry? And this one hit really hard and home for me because as a part of a commercial fisherman, this can be a tricky subject. And I've experienced it unfairly, but as a very human reaction to get jealous of, why is a woman fishing with my partner who I don't get to see as long, and they're in remote waters and my head starts to spin, okay? This is a total normal reaction for any woman or any partner ever in life, okay? I'm not saying this is weird. When my husband had a female deckhand, I went through this experience. And really, it had nothing to do with the female deckhand. It had to do with my own friggin' insecurities within our relationship. And why am I not expressing this to my husband? And also, what is the female fisherman going through? I mean, bless her heart, she's fishing on a boat in remote waters with some dude she doesn't know. So how can I put my shoes, how can I wear her shoes, her extra tufts, her fishing boots, How can her Tama boots? That's my other favorite boots. But yeah, just getting that perspective. But it was interesting to hear the fishermen bring that up, because I wanted to see how we can encourage that in our own community. And I believe that is having these honest conversations with our fishermen and having more strength within our relationship to not let things like that bug us, I mean, that's what it really comes down to. It's never the other person, right? It's always the reflections and the triggers that they're igniting within us that we haven't fully, digested and worked through yet. So that is the contribution that I want to bring forward to that, is helping support women into fishing, because also the fishermen saying, there's a big crew shortage out there. Don't we want to have nice, strong, responsible people on board that are women? I mean, I know women that have not gotten jobs because wives had an issue with it. And that's the change I want to make here. The fisherman who spoke, I got to speak with him afterwards. That actually happened in his situation. And he felt bad. He was like, this woman she would have been a great deckhand, but I just couldn't get past it because my wife had an issue with it. And I'm like, wow, I totally see both sides, and how can we make that change? So that was a big one. And I appreciate that man for speaking up. So that was freaking awesome. Yes, let's see. More things that I learned. So much support from the audience. It was lovely. The turnout was great. Standing room only. And even seeing Sina Wheeler, who's a 5th generation partner of a commercial fisherman, you've probably heard on this podcast before. She was standing in the back, and I'm like, hell yes. I mean, it's, I'm a greenhorn, if you will. I've been 8 years with my fishermen, but I had no idea what the hell was to expect when I got into this lifestyle. I did not come from a fishing family. And to see Sina, who's a 5th generation, standing back there, totally nodding along and totally supporting us, because no matter what, even if you're new to the game or you've had it in your blood for centuries, we can all connect on this beautiful spirit that we contribute so much to the industry, and also we need to feel empowered and amazing for that. I mean, whatever word you want to use, you don't have to use empowered, but high five to us. That is what I'm saying, and that is why this community is here. And that is why I'm getting a lump in my throat right now, right? Because that's the truth, you guys. And oh yeah, the POCF parlor. So later that night, it was 3:45 to 4:45 on Wednesday and Thursday. I hosted a Partners Commercial Fisherman parlor. I decided not to do a chat because I wanted to have a gathering and a space for people to come drink water because it is so freaking dry in that place and you're walking so far and long. But I wanted somewhere that they could have a non-alcoholic beverage and kick back. I had these veggie cups that were amazing. I was so impressed with the catering. But I had it delivered for people and they could just pick one up and kick back and hang out with people who understand them. And we were listening to chill, vibey music. Actually, it's called Mushroom Jazz by Mark Farina. My husband told me about it. It's really bomb, just background music if you want to take a listen. But anyway, by day 2, I had the microphone up to the speaker and I was like just blasting it throughout the whole conference. I didn't even care anymore. It's like everybody appreciates it. But it was just so great. And I'm really excited to do that next year because it's just different to connect face to face. It just is. Like I met 2 partners from Alaska and I met a partner from New Jersey and it's like, yep, we're all part of this giant family. Like that's it. We see each other. Just so freaking special. Okay, so that's the Dockside Chat highlight. The other highlight was meeting the Galley Stories podcaster, Mark Kaler. He is so genuine and kind and supportive of everyone, including this podcast. And I loved learning that he was a fisherman, and I love seeing how he listen to his podcast and see how he asks questions. And it's really a beautiful thing to see fishermen chat with each other because you can eavesdrop into these conversations you normally don't get to hear, which obviously is why it's called Galley Stories. But it's just such a special podcast if you haven't checked that out yet. It's just, it gets me emotional because it makes me think of my own fishermen and what they must go through these stories. So yeah, you probably know of Galley Stories, but the host, if you didn't know, is genuine and amazing. And even behind the scenes giving me advice, and it means more than you know. So yes. And then one of the final highlights is the Fisher Poets Gathering. OMG. They had an hour on the main stage on the last day. I rushed from my Airbnb to get there. I was probably 5-10 minutes late because I couldn't find parking. And I just sat down and I was listening to these poets and I was bawling, crying. Like, thankfully there's nobody directly next to me just going, what the hell is this girl's problem? But another way for me to gain that perspective of seeing what these fishermen go through and to really put my heart into why my husband loves it so much, and how it's entwined in him forever and has been and always will be. And just to hear those stories, it's a whole other ball game to hear fishermen express their love of the ocean when they have the talent to write about it and to share it, to speak it. I mean, art is such a beautiful conduit for us to connect. And the Fisher Poets Gathering, it happens in Astoria, Oregon, and it's going on February 23rd through the 25th for 2024. I'm going to try to go because with that kind of reaction of me sobbing, I'm definitely not going to miss it. It's also inspiring me to want to speak at the Fisher Poets Gathering and read the 9 Things to Know When Dating a Commercial Fisherman, the blog post that started it all. So thank you, Fisher Poets, for that inspiration. And I am so thrilled to know more about you. Okay. And yeah, I mean, the most important highlight was just the freaking outpouring of support. I mean, oh yes, I've heard of the Partners of Commercial Fishermen. Oh, what a great idea. Yeah, I can't wait to tell my partner. This kind of feedback is incredible that it's happened in just a year from a year ago. People kind of maybe they were open to it, but now they're a part of it and they're listening to this podcast. And if you're out there and I met you at PME, thank you. It was so great to meet you and you've made such a difference in me. And I'm going to the International Workboat Show actually this week. I'm leaving tomorrow. Hello, I need a pack. Anyway, and after that, I'm going to hunker down and get all of my info from PME and the workboat and gather and curate all the information together so I can put it in a magical cauldron of all our needs and wants and desires and help produce that for 2024. At least lay the foundation, if you will, to get it started. Or do it. What am I trying to say? It's just all the good things. That's all I'm saying. But I really do appreciate y'all. That is it for today. And I just want to remind everyone that if you want more on the Partners of Commercial Fishermen's lifestyle, you can visit POCFpride.com. And also, you'll want to tune in next week. It's the beginning of a sober series I'm doing called Dry December to end the year, because why do we need to start in January? I'm featuring my own story about quitting alcohol, and 2 other guests will share their journeys as well. We're also going to look at the non-alcoholic beverage empire, because it is a friggin' empire, y'all. And we're going to learn more about the support group called How to Stay Sober, founded by POCF and Director of Community Programs for the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association, my girl Monique Coombs. Because yeah, girl, I mean, holidays can be tough for those struggling with addiction, or any time of year ever, always, because it's such a regulated, mind-altering substance. I mean, that's a whole other podcast. But I wanted to do the Dry December series because it's a way to connect with others who don't drink. It may inspire you to become sober, quit drinking alcohol. Or if you're sober curious, these are options out there that you can do to whenever you don't feel like having a hangover, or you don't want to drink alcohol, or maybe you're pregnant and you want to still enjoy the taste. I mean, there's a spectrum of everything. But anyway, this is another option. You don't have to binge in the holidays if you don't want to. If you want to, that's cool too. There's no judgment ever, because that is what this space is about. So anyway, much love. I love y'all. I do mean this. You know, when people are like, I love you, it just seems so false. But I truly do. I really do feel connected to our community and the listeners of this podcast. And I just appreciate you so much. And I never want that to ever be in question. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much again for listening, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for being here. Your downloads, your reviews mean more than you know, because that's how we know that you are enjoying the podcast. And if you'd like to further support the community, you can tap the subscribe button, share with family and friends, post on socials, or write a review. But you know what? As long as you're getting value, that is all that matters. But if you go that extra step, we truly, truly appreciate it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you're a partner of a commercial fisherman looking for more resources on how to navigate this unique lifestyle, from long distance dating to communication to finances to motherhood advice to mental health, safety, you know, all the things. We're building more resources on succession planning and retirement. It's going to be amazing. There's even an option to join the private forum as well if you jump onto POCFpride.com to learn more. We are there for you. We got all of the community and all of the resources you need, and they are continuing to grow as we learn what you need the most. We can't wait to connect with you, and thank you so much again for being here. I need to take a minute to shout out our private forum. It is just getting better and better every day, and I want to take a moment to tell you about how incredible it is. So our private forum is a VIP members-only community with POCFs. It's for you to connect with other partners of commercial fishermen around the world whenever you want, need, or seek support. And the bonuses are that this is the only way that you get access to monthly Zoom calls to connect with other members on topics that are important to you, private podcast series where I publish behind closed doors conversations from guests that you've heard on this podcast. And let me tell you, that's when the tea is spilled. That is the good stuff. It's where they feel comfortable to speak to other POCFs because they are as well. And it's just real nice. Easy to navigate topics so you can join or start conversations with other POCFs as you please. There's no searching and figuring out what people have been talking about. Everything is beautifully categorized. You can jump in to getting married to a fisherman, mom advice, the list goes on and on. This is also the place that you can ask questions or vent with love without judgment. We know you love your fishermen. We also know that it can be tough sometimes with this lifestyle. You can talk to us and we'll never judge you. This is your safe space. This is also this is the place that you have the ability to ask me questions, seek advice, or get feedback. And this is the only way to currently reach me directly. I'm so excited and proud and I'm amazed about how this community has grown. And this is the best way for us all to commune. It's just social medias and emails are kind of getting out of control. And I would love to have our personal connection in this forum. So this is where you can reach me. There's also private resources from money management to mental health, you name it. It's going to be ongoing, added juicy memory bank of resources constantly for forum members. There's also quarterly virtual events with trusted professionals that focus on the lifestyle challenges that we have and how to overcome them. And you also get first access to annual in-person events and to hang out with your fish sisters in real life, y'all. So if you want to check it out, you can go to meganwaldrop.com/private-forum, and there is the beautiful landing page for you to learn all about these goodies and how to become a member too. We really, really cannot wait to meet you. And if you have any questions, you can email me and my team at support@meganwaldrop.com. I got you. Thanks for listening today. Being here means you're a part of the POCF family, and we wouldn't be a community without you. I'm Megan, and this is the Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast. As always, much love, POCF pride, and remember, you are not alone.